Call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum present, so we will proceed according to the agenda. First item of business would be to review and approve the minutes of the previous meeting, which was March 26th, 2025. Kyler has given us all a copy here. I'll just note that previously these had been distributed amongst the committee via email and comments submitted, and those have been incorporated. So is there a motion?
I'll move that we accept the minutes as printed.
Any discussion on the minutes?
Very well done. As I remember it.
Okay.
What words are for?
Okay, hearing nothing, I'll call for a vote. Motion is to approve as printed. It's been made and seconded. All those in favor? You know, you're on board, right, Kyler?
Yeah.
All right, so it's unanimous? Okay, good. Next item on the agenda would be time for some public comment. Is there any public comment? Then you can go ahead and,
Becky Taylor Chase, Town Administrator. I just wanted to let you all know I forwarded an email that on October 27th at 5 p.m. our town attorney is going to do a Freedom of Information Access training, FOIA as it's known. I highly recommend if you all can attend. It will be great. It will be a more one-on-one with the attorney to ask questions, but being a volunteer committee, anything you do is a public record. So it's just some great guidance to know, the proper chain when we're communicating and what happens. And there is rumor that we will have some food refreshments there too, but we have not settled on that yet. But I just wanted to make that announcement so it was in your minutes.
and that's being recorded for the.
That will be recorded. So if you can attend, you will be able to view it on the town's YouTube channel the next day or after, multiple times at any time you need that resource.
Well,
Okay.
depending on the food, I may be there.
You can't make a commitment yet.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
What do you want?
Okay, is there any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll select board input. We don't have anyone from the select board here. So we'll move on. Next order of business would be to elect a committee chair. I'll open the floor for nominations. Are there any nominations?
I will nominate Paul.
I will second that.
Yeah. Are there any other nominations?
Move that nomination cease.
You have very little choice here.
Yeah, nominations are closed. Let's have a vote. Nominations is to elect Paul Schuman as chair for the ensuing year. All those in favor? Okay. Thank you all. I appreciate your confidence and support. Next order of business would be to elect the committee scribe. Nominations are open for committee scribe. Is there a nomination?
I move that Kyler Fiegels continue as committee scribe.
I second that. Yes, of course. Eagerly.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor of Kyler Fiegels as being the committee scribe for the ensuing year? Who's there?
You didn't raise your hand, Kyler.
Congratulations, Kyler. Next order of business would be a discussion regarding investing capital reserve account balance. Becky Taylor Chase, Town Administrator, is here to talk to us about that, and this will be our first effort into discussing how we might put the capital reserve balance to work for the benefit of the town. So Becky, I'm going to turn it over to you, and Teresa, could you go to the next slide? There.
There you go.
Okay, this is out of the last gold copy of the plan. And it has the appropriation each year. First year, year one is the current, I can't read it. the fiscal year 2026. So the point here was, and I wasn't sure what detail she was going to go into, but this will show the appropriations and projected reserve account balances for the first 5 years of the current gold plan. I thought this might put some context into what you're discussing, Becky.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me tonight. So quick lead up into the discussion. Last year with some work, Paul had some input in it. At the time, the chair of the budget committee, Bo Chesney, had some input, and we got some input from other towns and their investment policies. And we put together an investment policy that the select board approved, which I've given you all printed copies, so you can take some time and review that and get familiar with it. I'm not expecting any decisions tonight. I just want to start discussions because as a committee, you're going to want to think about what this could look like. I want to point out in the policy, one thing that we are governed by law is we cannot invest where we could potentially lose. So there's no stock market investing. It is T-notes or CDs is where we go. Fast forward a little bit to August of last year, I attended the managers conference up in Sunday River, and they had an investment webinar session. So I sat in on that and talked with a couple of banks and connected with Franklin Bank. And did some preliminary work with her to just get an idea of what they could do. No fees, total online access, our money's our money, kind of thing. And it seemed pretty simple. So this year, with the permission of the Cemetery Commission, I invested 70,000 of their perpetual care fund back in June. And she got me a rate. This is a 6-month CD that I'm doing right now, no fees. She got me a rate of 4%. And so far, it has earned in 3 months $574.75. It was earning $3 a month before. That's huge. That's a huge amount. So the first month, it was $148.61, second month, $219.84, third month, $206.30. And I wanted to do that and have some data to bring to you. Looking at your fund with TD Bank, we are earning 2.12%. Last month, we were $2,264.70 of interest on $1.2 million. Next month, $2,260.67 on the 1.2 million. It was earning a lot more last year, but it seems to be ticking downward. Not sure if their rates are just changing. So I'm just opening this up because I really want the committee to think and talk about and look at your numbers about the possibility if you want to move some money into a CD with Franklin Savings and see if we can't boost up some of that interest to help it work more for the taxpayers. That is the ultimate goal with that money sitting there. And I think that you're going to need to, I'm glad you have that there because you're going to want to look at what that account looks like, what money we're going to need over the next few years. We can split it up and we can do 6 months and 12 months. We can put it all in one chunk. We can, it's very versatile what we can do. I did not get rates tonight because they're going to change next week, but I can reach out on October 1st and at least see what the October rates. When I looked at their site today, between 6 months to 24 months, they were hovering just below 4% right now. And I can always try to talk and see if there's any boost, and that interest rate is all, if we're going to move a good sum of money over there. So that is the gist of where we're at with that right now.
In the TD Bank account, is there a minimum required to get that 2%?
That's a good question. I can ask them. It's hard to know because interest rates since COVID have just kind of been all over the place. I know the balance was not that high when I started here 5 years ago, but the interest was less than 1% at that point in time.
Right, but I know that TD Bank has tiered levels of accounts. Some of them require a minimum balance to be maintained to get that tier that you're looking for. The higher the tier, the higher the interest rate. And of course, interest rates all across the country have come down from what they were a year ago.
Right.
My thought is that we would want to look at it in at least 2 or more parts. Is you've got your main account And so you'd want to know what's the criteria to maintain is it 100,000? Is it 500,000? And you get a higher level of interest. And I think if they know you're looking, you might find, oh, there are tiers available that weren't available before. And then Franklin, you're talking about CDs, right?
That's correct.
Insured?
Yes.
Do we have to stay under the $250,000?
There is a tier where it turns from a certificate of deposit to just a slightly different name, which requires slightly more insurance coverage on it. But it doesn't affect, like, we don't have to pay for it, it just affects the interest rate for which you earn. So when it's interesting to me that their shorter term are higher interest and the longer term are lower, and I would think they would want you to long-term invest, right? And that is the way, I mean, Andrew Scoggin has given me rates, Camden National Bank, so I've seen rates recently from across multiple banks. So it just always has confused me. If we wanted to invest a good sum of money for a long length of time, we're getting the lowest return. So
Yeah,
this is
that's-
this is an area where we might be able to do multiple things here.
Do we have a specific length of time that we want to invest the money, or do we have what is the longest we want to invest that money for? Because we want it to be available at a certain amount of time.
And I think that's what makes us different than, say, the cemetery commission, because on the screen, you can see there's volatility in the balances that we have at any one year.
Yeah.
And in the plan, we have, if we're going to do this, we have the ability to, right now, to play with this whole idea of investing it. And the idea when that was put into the plan was to look ahead and say, if we're going to have a balance of, say, 900,000 next year, and we know we don't, and we're only going to spend 300,000, there's 600,000 you don't expect to spend next year. So you could say half of that should go into some type of investment, but it all needs to be available again by the end of the plan year and refigure it.
But which is actually good, because right now, the shorter your investment
Right.
time is, the higher your rate is.
Yeah.
So you could actually go for a relatively short amount of time.
Because we could
then
easily,
invest it again.
we could easily go from $1 million balance in our fund to $500,000 balance in 12 months, just because we're going to buy some big equipment. You buy 2 dump trucks and you're taking that right down type of thing. So I would think, and this is just thinking off the top of my head, which you and I have talked a little bit about it, is to somehow say, even though you can only invest safely, we have to protect that fund. And if we have 900,000, we may say, we're willing to invest half of that, but we want it all available, or we want to tell you that in 12 months, the amount we're willing to invest may change significantly. So it might be that a CD ladder could be created so that you're always having, if you're doing 6 months, then every 6 months, a percentage of that becomes available and could go back into the unrestricted balance because we need it. And then you're never more than 6 months away from your money. So it could be 3 months, 6 months, whatever we want to do.
Timing's important as far as that goes. There is no penalty if for whatever reason we had to pull it before it matured. We just lose all the interest that had been accumulating. That would be the penalty,
Right.
actually. But we don't lose anything lower than what we had invested. That's part of the no risk requirement with municipal investing. There was a second point that kind of popped in as I was saying that, and it's gone out of my head, but I'm sure I'll think of it during our conversation.
But given if we have this 5-year look, we have a longer look, but let's just work with the 5-year look in our plan anyway. It would probably be easy for the committee to give you advice as to how much of this is free for investment outside of the base. It could be half, it could be 3/4, whatever. that we feel comfortable so that, all right, you take it out, invest it, but we want so much of it back by the end of the year, and then we'll tell you how much, again, you can put into the latter. I mean, that's the way I kind of see it working, rather than saying, oh, we got $1 million we're not going to use for a year, go put it all in someplace. And that, until we get some experience at this, it kind of worries me that we don't have a big, a sizable amount of funds that the committee feels is reasonable, that this has got to be protected at all costs type of thing.
Absolutely.
How long are these, terms for?
They can be anywhere from 3 months to 24 months.
And the farther out you go, the lower.
Correct.
So, I mean, would it not make sense to just do and you said there are limits to how much you can invest in any particular
Ladder 3-month.
Mm-hmm.
fund?
There's a threshold that requires different FDIC insurance, a minimum, and it's somewhere around $250,000, I think is where the threshold.
Multiple accounts,
I can-
small accounts?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
With different dates.
That's right.
no, they'd have to have different owners.
That's,
Open one up.
Yeah, what?
No.
The name on the account has to be different
yeah,
for it to get different, for it to get separate insurance.
Or do you use
Yes.
different banks? Or do we have to use that one bank that you?
we don't have to, but I have to manage it
Okay.
along with everything else. So,
Yeah.
so I mean, we could sit here and shop for months, but the rates change every month. And if I sit down and try to investigate, I need to dedicate 2 to 3 solid days to investigate. And that does not happen in my world because the first emergency that walks through the door tears me away for 3 weeks sometimes, you know,
Yeah,
or.
just my thought process is if we could do 2 different banks, that way we wouldn't have to have different account owners, right? Because
Right.
it's a different bank.
Well, we can name them different. I mean, they can
Well,
be
but-
CIP 1, they can be CIP.
Yeah, but I think it's the beneficial owner. And if Pownell, the town of Pownell is always the beneficial owner, no matter what you call it, I don't know if and this is something you could check, for insurance purposes, have you changed the name of the account? In other words, if I go into a bank, I can have an account in my name and have 250,000 insurance. My wife can have an account in her name and have 250,000 insurance. We could have an account in both of our names and have another 250,000, because the beneficial owners are different. But I can't have Paul Fund Number 1 and Paul Fund Number 2 because I'm the only beneficial owner. At least that's my understanding how the FDIC insurance works. The other thing, have you looked at some of the online banks? And I'm talking about not the fly-by-night stuff that just pop up, but some of the big name investment houses have, at least they did a month or 2 ago, have some very interesting rates. And it seemed to be no fees, no balances, easy in and easy out. Now it might be $100,000 minimum or something. But if it's truly that easy, no, I think they were 25,000 minimum. So if it's truly that easy, then you're really just dealing at your keyboard, moving it back and forth from your checking account into, that would be another way to look at diversification of banks.
We did look at the larger ones when we were drafting the policy, but we haven't since then. I wouldn't be able to just move money back and forth between TD and that, though. It still is going to require a little bit more. Because they're not going to talk to each other. I can't transfer out of Franklin into TD. I actually have to have them issue me a check if I want to cash out that and then run it through.
You don't think so? I think you should look into that.
They'll do wire transfers.
Well, they'll do wire transfers, but we typically don't do a lot of wire transfers because I don't want them to get out of control in the gen fund either, so.
Well, I think your point is a good one, that I mean, on the one hand, you want to find a good, responsible place to put town money. On the other hand, you're not a financial manager. I mean, this is just part of a job for you. Managing money is a lot of work.
So this is why I'm here, is for you all to look at your funds, think about what is a safe starting point. I've got some homework to do and ask and do some more research and then we can come back to the table. I probably can't come back in October because it's going to be the week before election, so.
Well, then let's just take a little bit different tack to it. What is our role in this whole process as a committee? Because we're not in financial investors as a committee. And we don't, what I was picturing, and tell me if I'm wrong, from discussions a couple of years ago, was that the committee could tell you for the next 12 months, we have this much in excess funds. The town should go and invest it. And we've done our job.
That's what I'm looking for.
Okay. All right.
But I also want to give you as much detail and information and be as transparent, just so you know on my end, what I've looked into to this point, what I've done to this point. This is important. I think it's really important, but you hold sort of the startup data. You know what's coming for capital expenses. You know kind of the threshold coming into the next year or two, what might be going on the warrant or is going on the warrant. I think that's the starting point for me, is how much can we do? Can we do 750? Can we do 5? Can we do 200? Do we do 100? Because next year we've got, 5 pieces of equipment to replace, which is probably not the case, but
So if we came to you and said each year we have $750,000 that we could call excess funds for investing, and then in a year say, well, this year it's only 300,000 because of what we have to do. And then the next year could be, it's changing like that, particularly until we get experienced at it, because I mean,
absolutely.
certainly we don't want to come to town meeting and say, we just don't have the money this year because it's all invested and the CD doesn't come due for 3 more months.
And I think the timing really, plays into it. If we can hit the laddering properly, we could be cashing out around June. We would know, because you can pull
Right.
the interest, or we can reinvest the interest at the same time as the initial deposit too. So if we get, so say we just do a 6-month right now to try it out. We know the money we're going to do. We're all good. Everybody's happy. And I go and I get it all set up starting October 1st. So we're going to cash out in April. All I have to do is say, okay, well, we want to take the whole thing with the interest and just redo another 6 months right now. And it's, like you said, it's a couple of buttons on the keyboard. Actually, I just emailed the executive vice president, say, this is what I want to do, and she'll take care of it for me. Same thing. So, or we get to April and we're thinking, yeah, we got town meeting, we're going to need that money on July 1, we're going to cash it out. Or you just take the interest and it helps with your smoothing and your
Right.
appropriations down the road. I mean, there's just multiple avenues that it can help you, but I think timing's going to be key, and timing it around June sometime.
I think that's important because this exhibit will be available to us. And town meeting, once we know what town meeting is doing, if we follow the plan, in the town meeting vote, then we probably would at that point already know what our number is to you in terms of what I'll call excess funds for investing.
Correct.
Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes. I think over a period of time, if it's done well, we could significantly affect the fiscal year appropriations.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the number that Becky's been telling me over the past 12 months of what we're getting for interest is fantastic compared to what we used to get.
Right.
And then if we start doing, get aggressively, prudently aggressive in terms of how we can invest the funds, we're going to wind up buying big chunks of equipment with interest, which would be great. Any other questions for Becky? How soon do you think to get this started?
Whenever you're ready. It's no rush on my end. It's just a policy that we adopted. People were passionate about this policy. And it was one of my goals when I returned in January, is to make sure we started some forward movement with this policy, because we have talked about it for 2.5 years and now it's in place. I really want the committee to take time to read the policy, to look at the numbers, to think about what that looks like. If we don't invest until next year, we don't invest till next year, that's fine. I think doing our due diligence and our homework is the bigger picture right now, and the investment once we get started, is then that becomes a learning experience as we figure out and get, like you said, better at it and managing.
Mhm.
Is there any difference in the 3-month versus 6 months?
I would have to look at the rates. A little bit, when I glanced this afternoon real quick, they weren't much. The 6-month, the annual APR was 4, but it was like 3.92, for the monthly, but the annual was 4. That was the highest one I saw, and that was the 6-month.
So
Which-
December 1st would be our drop dead to have the funds available again by June.
If we wanted to do something and have it available in June to cash out if we needed it, depending on what's coming on the warrant article, which you're going to know as you work through your process, which is fine. And if we could do a 3-month, or we could hold and do July 1, which has some advantage in some ways, because then it gives the opportunity of laddering at that point, because we could start a longer one in July and then a shorter, we could start to build that little bit
We
of,
could still start this year and then reset. July 1.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
yes,
I
absolutely.
think if we did something by December 1st, it would be a good test case.
Yeah, 6 months.
Yeah,
See what
yeah.
it worked out to be. We have the funds available on June 1 again.
It would give us a good idea for next year.
Yeah, I think sooner would be better just to get the experience. And if we don't maximize the interest, but we do better than we're doing now, but get some experience and comfort with
Yeah,
moving some of our balance someplace else. Although to us in the plan, it's all gonna be our balance. And then get the protocols working with you in terms of what you need from us and vice versa. I think the sooner we do that, the better. And then, be in a position to get experience, and then by July 1 of next year, be ready to step it up a bit. And
Absolutely.
then just keep doing that as we get comfortable. You get comfortable, we get comfortable.
And that gives you 2 months to be looking at the numbers and continuing this discussion. So in your November meeting, you could probably, as a committee, make your decision and then let me know, and then I can just work on getting it set up for December 1. The timing might be really good.
And I agree with Paul. If you talk to TD and tell them that you're looking around, they may do a lot better.
I'm sure they will. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, walk in and say, we've got all this money. We think we should be doing better than what we're doing. Tell me how we can do that here. And that'll plant the seed.
It's no different from you circling RFP to see what banking services, and the next thing you get a call from your loan specialist or your bank specialist going, oh, we can improve your rates, and because they know you're shopping and
Right, I wouldn't make it a secret that you're shopping, because they'll circle their wagons.
I'll be at the bank tomorrow because I have to file some paperwork for the new tax increment financing account that we just opened anyway, so.
But you might just, as you're getting ready to leave, do you have any paperwork you can give me on how some of these large balances could be put to work better? I'll take that with me, and, they may not let you leave.
They better serve lunch then.
Any other questions for Becky?
Very helpful.
Well, thank you.
Good.
Thank you for having me and having the discussion. I've been excited to get here this fall to just open up these discussions, and I'm excited to see the next part in the agenda about how this all works, because I'll be a part of this year.
Okay, well, thank you for coming in. I appreciate it, and I'm really glad to see this getting started, and anxious to see how we become comfortable doing it. Okay, the next item on the agenda is plan assumptions. That was in the agenda and is up on the screen in a second. That's the next slide. Okay, so this is the list of assumptions that we traditionally have. These are certainly the key ones in the plan. And so I'd like to quickly walk through them, because some of those will make some quick decisions and others will decide when we'll make the decision. The bond fee and $5,250 has been in the prior plan for the last 10 years. And I'm still not 100% comfortable with it, but it must cost something to issue bonds. So we put that into every bond issue, and I'm sure Becky would advise us if we need to do something different. So Becky, we will, since you're in the room, we'll continue with that number until we hear from you that the costs of issuance are, and the way that works is that cost of issuance gets amortized over the life of the loan. So it's not a big cost, but there's some cost. That could be town attorneys, bond attorneys, whatever, but with Maine Bond Bank, I don't fully understand yet how that all works.
It's magic.
I know, that's what it seems to be. The bond interest rate, again, we'll look for some help from you. Becky, those, I don't know how those are changing, although I know there's been some changes in the old bond issues, and I've filtered that into the plan that we're building on the information that you gave me. So again, there, we'd like some feedback from you. On bond term, we have traditionally included in the plan 20-year bonds. We can change that on a year-to-year basis. So looking for any suggestions on if we want that different. We could, we always have the ability to look at a particular item in a particular year and say, no, that's more a 10-year, that's more a 30-year, and can adjust the plan that way. But right now, with everything that we're projecting to bond, it's at 20 years.
At this moment, what are we looking at bonding the next 2 years? An excavator?
No, the next thing would be in 2030, I think, is a fire engine.
Okay.
I think it's the fire engine, then excavator. Or,
Oh, the
Yeah,
excavator's
not it.
27.
no, but we're not bonding that.
Okay.
It's the, I can't remember what it is.
We would suggest, we would be able to change that bond term as we go, doesn't it?
We can change, yeah, we can change it as we go. We can change it by the year. So everything in that, the way the plan, where everything in that year would bond for whatever the assumption is for that year.
So if we did get the opportunity to say, get a bond for all of a sudden for 30 years, we have it set for 20 years for this year.
We could change that 1 year. In other words, it's saying
We
that
can change this at that time.
that time. Yes.
I'm comfortable with leaving it at 20.
So actually, setting it at 20 years doesn't really mean that much.
Well, what it does, it says for everything that you're bonding, whenever a bond comes
Yeah.
up, it's going to be for 20 years. And we calculate the amortization of that bond for that equipment based on that assumption. If we get to
Yeah.
something, say that,
Well, we use the 20 as a working tool, basically.
right, and that's what it is right now.
You don't ever want to bond something for more than its useful life either.
Well, we realize.
Yeah. Okay, okay, so we'll leave it at 20 until we have some other reason
Yeah.
to change it. And like I said, it's essentially a 20-year plan, so there's 20 different 20% in there, or 20 years in there for the bond, so we could change only one of them. And that would be done more on a specific item, and we haven't really had that experience yet. The bonding threshold is something that is important. Right now, it's at 300,000. That means that anything 300,000 and up will be bonded. Below that, it will be an appropriation. So that's how we separate right now. We do it by replacement cost. There's another way to do it. We've never selected to do it based on the years of service.
We went to the 300,000 last year, I think, didn't we?
Couple years ago, yeah. And if you remember, we played with that back and forth to try and,
$5 on top of it or something.
yeah, we were playing with it to make the plan work the way we wanted to. So is there anybody right now would like to change that? Or we can always, we will revisit these assumptions later on, but this is how we'll start the build of the plan.
I would keep it right where it is until we find out what
Mhm.
current replacement costs are.
That makes sense.
So that, and when we know, I mean, if we don't have any, we have to bond in the next couple of years, then it's,
Right.
leave it as it is.
And it just gets to, one of the things we've done is that, I mean, we got dump trucks in at $268,000. If a dump truck comes in and it's 3.25, we want to bond individual dump trucks. That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
What's the lifespan of that?
12 years, hopefully. So, all right, future appropriation smoothing, and you'll remember that is the first 5 years, we kind of set what that appropriation is going to be to smooth it out. That's a kind of a judgment on the committee. And then beyond the 5 years, for the rest of the 20-year period, we have the ability to set a percentage increase. And what we did last year, I think we brought that up to the inflation rate because it didn't seem to make sense that the two were out of sync. And we said we would do that for the next 10 years. So that's 15 years of smoothing in the plan right now is what we've assumed. Is there any reason to change any of that at this point?
No,
Okay.
I mean, inflation has come down some, but it's gone back up as well. So we don't really know where it's gonna
Right.
end up.
The inflation rate is at 6% in the prior plan. I would suggest let's just leave it there, and as we build the current plan, we will take a hard look at the inflation rate after we get information from the department heads and see, what they bring in, what they're telling us, and how that looks at our historical data and what that means. And if you remember, we did that last year. The interest rate on the capital reserve account, Becky had provided in the information that she sent me, 2.12%, down from the 2.58% that was used in last year's capital plan. So we'll go with what the town administrator best guess is on that right now. Year 1 through 5 appropriation override, that's the manual override that we do. What I've put into here is year 1 is last year's year 2. So I've just moved everything over as was envisioned in the last plan. Year 5, I made the same as year 4, only because if we don't put something there, there's a hole in the plan until we do. And of course, all of these are subject to judgment calls by the committee as we get close to building the final plan, but we need something to start that. So if somebody wants to change any of those, particularly the year 5 appropriation, let me know. Now?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. Okay. So that's how, that'll be the,
A lot of this, we really can't until we know what current replacement costs are.
right. And this is, this just allows the initial build of the plan.
Right.
But hopefully it's in the ballpark. Sometimes, some years we've had to make some big changes. Some of these now get into more qualitative assumptions that we've made, and we've talked about many of these before. Allow negative appropriations. I think last year, the year before, we changed that from yes to no, and that was really to help get a better picture of the future. I think our argument was, well, there's probably not going to be negative appropriations in the future. There might be flat appropriations, but unless we got, things really changed and we were getting too much money in the reserve, we would probably never allow that to happen. Maybe reduce, but not negative. And that's just because that's in the area where the plan is calculating, it's not smooth. Round to thousands, we thought, yes, we should do that because that makes the information look more budgeting or planning than it does if you have down to the nearest dollar. It looks like it's precision that you're going after, and precision is not what we're after here. And smooth as a percent of prior year. So what that says is it essentially says if the plan wants to calculate a negative appropriation, the plan says, oh, I'm not allowed to do that. What am I going to do? It says, all right, I'm going to smooth it and make it equal to last year's appropriation. So that kind of gets us a flat appropriation, and that we made that decision, I think, a year ago to kind of make the future make more sense
Yep.
and easier to read than it become a roller coaster. So I'm not hearing anybody say change it, so we'll keep those. Then in the what if scenario, there are some sensitivity. There's a sensitivity range, that's at 10% right now, and that's essentially changes some highlighting. If it's something is in the what if is more than 10% out from the plan, it'll highlight it a different color so we know to look at it. The target capital reserve balance is a number that we target. Right now, it's equal to the bonding threshold. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. But that would be where we want the capital reserve balance to be at a minimum in year one, and then it will rise due to inflation over time within the plan.
So, yeah, basically, we always figured the cost of a dump truck.
Right, and that used to be our kind of Kentucky windage type of thing. We raised it from the 268 to 300,000, I think, last year because it
Right.
made more sense. And then the capital reserve sensitivity is that, again, allows the plan to call out to us by changing colors if something is less than 90%. So rather than trying to look at the exact number that the what if scenario is calculating, this says if it's below 90% of the target for that year, it'll change color and say, look at me. And if you're still comfortable, fine. If you're not, then make some adjustment. Because there was no sense really trying to get down and play with 1 or 2%, just did not deserve our attention. Percent invested in the plan, we're not using it, but now we're going to start looking at it because Becky's been here to get us started. We're talking about 20% invested in the plan. We can look at that as we go through it and decide is 20%, 50%, whatever. And then the excess over target that says that we should invest anything that's in excess of our target amounts for the capital reserve. And the plan will calculate that for us, So there's no suggestions to change anything there, so we'll keep everything as it is. And again, this is just the initial build of the plan, and we can change anything at any time. Okay, any other discussion about the plan assumptions? Okay. The next item, I think, is the asset schedule and items due for funding. On the screen and in the agenda was the asset schedule, and the items, the plan automatically highlights items that are coming due for funding in the next plan year. So you can see in public safety, we have the air compressor system. And I don't know where Jesse's thoughts are, but last year he told us that he's continuing to bump that down the road in hopes of getting to when we have the new fire facility. And he can then get the air compressor that is, let's say, more appropriate and has the room for it. The other two items would be in Public Works, and one is the excavator, the 2008 Caterpillar, and the flail mower attachment for the excavator. And this is changing the excavator to a wheeled machine rather than a track machine. So those are the three items that are planned for funding this year. As the department heads come in and give us their thoughts on what they need, what they want, what the vendors are telling them. Things may change, but that's where we'll start the plan. Okay, if there's no questions, we'll move on. That was just more informational. Go to, all right. So other items, we have a potential conflict in December. The last Wednesday of the month is New Year's Eve, and I'm assuming you guys will not want to be here. We should all go to you. So we did schedule to move that meeting to January 7th. I just want to make sure everybody's okay with that. Okay. No objections on that. So the room's already booked. And then department head presentations. On the screen, I've put on the guidance that we offered or provided to the department heads last year, and that was items to be replaced in years 1 to 5. They should contact 3 vendors for current pricing, and I want to discuss that one. And when I was putting that together, I was thinking something that's 5 years out, is that really a good exercise for the department heads to talk to 3 vendors for something that's 5 years away?
I don't think so.
Well, that was my thought, and I was wondering if maybe, all right, something that's coming up in the next 3 years, let's put the work into that, to try and start zeroing in and, we're not getting bids, but we're getting useful information from varied vendors. Certainly year 1 is the most important. Year 3 would be not as important, but certainly important to the plan because it's too close to present for major adjustments. So we need to kind of get our, get good information.
Even 3 years.
That's hard to,
In this environment, 3 years is just.
It's hard.
Possible.
right. But
It
but,
is, but it's helpful to at least know what direction,
and
how aggressively things are going up.
They'll throw a budget figure at it.
yeah, I mean, we're getting street prices. We're not getting competitive. Because that's all we can, I mean, it's all we can ask for at this point. So if that were the case, then, if 1 to 3 is a better exercise for our department heads, then,
I think so. I mean, 5 years seems to be a bit way out.
Our new public works director has a confused look on his face. So we'll have to go through that with him.
well, and,
John's got the wheels turning like, maybe I should reach out and start, and I'm doing some homework now.
Yeah.
that would be better. So if we did that, then anything over 3 years, talk to somebody. No, don't just wing it, but talk to the salesperson you see every month and a half and find out what is the current price for this type of equipment. And so we have something that is useful in our planning process. It's,
But I agree that 5 years is probably too long, but I don't think 3 years is too long for a tentative planning. It is
Right.
not. You're not going to get exact figures,
Right.
that. But I mean, but you have to be planning and you have to have it in mind that you're going to do something.
right, I mean, town policy says all of these items are going out to bid anyway.
Yeah.
And it's just, but for planning purposes, let's keep the numbers reasonable in terms of planning numbers. And so we don't want to be yanked one way, this way, or yanked that way later on and find out the appropriations have been too high or they've been too low. And now we've got to scramble to do right by the taxpayer. So that would be my thought for making an adjustment there, if everybody's in agreement. So I'm
Yeah.
seeing
I think
everybody
that
nodding their
makes a
heads.
lot of sense.
1 to 3, and then over 3. And then plan on department heads to present in January 7th or January 28th. I think since we have 2 of them here, like public safety and public works to be on different nights, because those can be the time consuming ones, and then Becky, you be in there for the Mallet Hall stuff, either one of those nights. Hopefully, if you see somebody that's got a short list, jump in on that night, but whatever, we'll make it work for everybody. And for your benefit, what I've seen happen before is when I send it out and say, we're inviting you to either of these nights, please let me know your preference. Whoever answers first gets their preference. And I know Chief Peters is pretty quick. Right.
So are we gonna fit him in on January 7th?
Well, I haven't sent the invitation yet, but I can do that.
Depends on whether there's a snowstorm or not.
Right.
They were in Maine, I mean.
Yeah.
Doesn't start till February anymore.
So,
February to May.
And I don't know, given that this is your first time through this and you haven't seen what we do as a process or the plan, one I'd be happy to help you with. He's seen it a lot, so I'm sure.
Oh, I'm happy to sit down with you.
Yeah.
never worked on getting numbers for that stuff, so it's gonna be a learning curve. So,
Yeah.
everything down.
And, you know, and we will have, you know, and so you're the one that's gonna be, what we're looking for is with every item that's on the list, and I assume you got the list, because I don't know when you started, but I did send it to Public Works and Public Safety, just as a, hey, here it is. And we're looking for the replacement cost now. What's it gonna, if you were to buy all of your things right now, and then we will inflate it to the future price. If you say, well, now it's $100, but I don't need it for 10 years, we'll figure out what it costs in 10 years. And then the other important thing is service life. Will your current dump truck has 4 more years on it? Are you gonna make 4 more years? If not, why? Type of thing. And then we'll work with you to figure out what, if it's not gonna make it, like we just did one this year, that didn't make as far as we had hoped it would go. So we'll work that out, but those are the things, that, you know, if you see something that you're not gonna make it to that life, we'll ask questions, but we'll work with you to try and figure out, all right, how do we deal with that item? Or if you get something that say, hey, you're planning to replace it next year, I can get 5 more years out of it. We've changed the way we use this piece of equipment, I can get 5 more years. We'll work with you on that too, we like those. So,
But for your benefit, this last plan, we did agree, because that 2014 dump truck that we just replaced was the last truck to have all the plow gear and body swapped from the previous truck. There's no more of that. Yeah.
yeah. So that all comes in a package and, so we hope, you know, we're counting on you to manage the maintenance of that equipment to make the service life, at least the service life that's in the plan. So. Any other questions on? It's 8:45 already. I'm sorry to keep you so late.
Been 8:45.
That's, yeah, well, we started at 8:45, so we're doing good. So that's the way we'll set the expectations and guidance for the discussions with the department heads. I'll get out an invite. Becky will be doing the Mallet Hall stuff this year. Yeah, invite for everybody and get dates set up so everybody knows when to get prepared by. Next item would be open discussion. Is there anything that we need to talk about as a committee? This is our inaugural meeting back in the new sessions and the new planning year. Okay, that's good.
The inflation rate, would it be smart to talk to an economist? and kind of get an idea where they think inflation is heading?
As long as they can talk to us about inflation with this type of asset,
Yeah.
I mean, the
Right, 'cause
problem,
they're usually dealing with,
household.
I don't think we would get any more accurate information than we get on the nightly news right
Yeah.
now. I mean, it's all guesswork.
Because, I mean, right now, we're calculating it ourselves based on the history that we have. And just so you know, we've got history.
For our purposes.
For our
I think
purposes.
The best thing we can do is listen to these guys and see where the rates are gonna, where the cost is gonna be, and then figure it out.
We've got the history back to 2012, but we know there's some history that is suspect. Then we know there's history that includes COVID. And so we have to make an important decision as to where's the beginning point of our inflation analysis up to what the department heads are currently telling us. And we can drop that into the plan and see what it computes out for us. I mean, that's pretty simple to do. The question is finding the information. I mean, tariffs are back. You remember right before COVID, there was tariffs that we were talking about and it was screwing everything up. Now they're back in the picture again, and I don't know whether they're going up or going down or sideways, whatever. So. And that's, other than what normally is going on in business, that makes it interesting. So
there is nothing normal about business.
No. so that I think gives us a better insight, but if somebody has insight into that world of heavy equipment and what's going on, I mean, I would imagine steel, the cost of steel helps. You know what's going on there because all this stuff has got a lot of steel in it.
Right.
Okay, the next thing would be, the next meeting is Wednesday, October 29th at 6:30. We will start talking about the investment ideas that Becky gave us tonight in terms of how we get comfortable with, it's going to feel different to have our funds get broken up and moved elsewhere. I know it's going to come, to us, in the plan, it'll still be the same. It's just that as Becky updates the fund balance year to year, if the interest gets more meaningful, we may want to know that earlier. So you may want to say halfway through, how much interest has the fund accumulated because it's now meaningful and can help with the funding.
Especially the first year or two that
Yeah.
we're doing it, we're not gonna know.
Yep. So, all right, if there's nothing else, then motion to adjourn would be in order.
Second,
All those in favor? We're good to go. Thank you very much, everybody.
thank you.